vibrant community. It's not just a big old folks home kind of thing. And I
But
think
it
there's
will
been
become one if they do close the school. So it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If
Yeah.
they close the school down, families will not move into the town.
I'd like to start this presentation off with a quote from Bill Gates. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. I chose this quote to remind all of us to think in the long term. It really seems to me that the school board and ourselves have been suffering from short-term thinking and a lack of long-term planning. We're being asked to make huge decisions that could have catastrophic effects on this community in what is really the blink of an eye. If that is going to be the case, I hope everyone will take a step back and really think about the implications of closing the school in the center of our town. As residents of the area, you're probably familiar with this sign and have seen them in many of your neighbors' yards. I'm sure many of you are thinking, what does a coal mine have to do with our school? Well, a lot actually. With the coal mine and the school, we're being told there are lots of positives to consider and that it's a good move, if not the only move, for our community. Let's focus on the coal mine for a second. The Coal Corporation has told us not to worry about the possible environmental effects of the mine. And why should we? After all, they've promised to be careful and have said as much in this oh-so-inspiring quote on their website, which of course was written by the very man who stands to make millions from the mine. They've also used positive imagery to further allay our fears and make us feel our best interests are at heart. And of course, don't forget about all the positive economic benefits. High-paying local jobs in a community that does need them, tax money for the municipality, and of course, money for poor CEO John Tapix. But with all these benefits and assurances, why is it we don't believe them and public support is so low for the mine? Well, it's simple. Despite human beings' best efforts, accidents happen and always will. The few mining jobs created won't add up to the employment lost by local fisheries and tourism operators. But most of all, the people who've lived here and cherish the spectacular natural environment surrounding them know they'll be left holding the bag and dealing with the toxic mess an accident leaves behind. Now the situation at QBES is not so different. We've been told over and over again the currently proposed closures are the only way forward. The public consultations seem to be venues bent only on selling us on the benefits of the current closure plans and contain absolutely no consideration for the impact this will have on the community of Qualicum Beach. I believe Qualicum Beach is going to suffer greatly from what has been a very short-sighted approach to a problem that will take years to solve. Closing schools now only balance budgets for 1 year, but it still leaves millions more to make up in the next. I want to show you what I think is a very common sense view of how the closure of QBES will affect Qualicum Beach. Here on the map, you can see the schools that will be proposed elementaries and QBES still intact. Now, schools and shops and services here make Qualicum Beach an attractive place for families. But if you take away the school, less families will choose to move here and fewer will stay. Less families to support local business means some will inevitably close. Growing families are important to business because we spend more than any other group. I compared my family's grocery bill with that of my retired neighbors and found it was 4 times as much. Now add to that clothes, toys, sports equipment, and the fact we wear out things like appliances faster and just about any other consumable you can think of, and we certainly do our part for the economy. Now, if some of the local businesses and service providers leave our town, it becomes a less attractive place for families to live. This also has a stunting effect on the newly developing areas to the west of Qualicum Beach that rely on the town's services. So you've got a school over here, but no shops or services around it. And a school here with lots of shops and services nearby. It makes sense for families to gravitate there. As families continue to move away, business and the community suffers, making it even less attractive in the long run. Now hold on a second, you say. Isn't this supposed to be about what's best for our children's education? What has this got to do with it? Well, here's a list of just a few of the hardships a situation like this creates. I want you to ask yourself if this creates an environment conducive to learning. Now in time, it's likely that QBMS and KSS will close as well due to low enrollment. You've now seen the undoing of an entire community so that we could balance a budget for 1 year. But this doesn't have to be our future. We can choose to be smarter. Let me introduce you to the Qualicum Beach Youth and Young Family Attraction Strategy written in 2012. Now, let me introduce you to the 9 people who helped write it, over half of whom were from education. During the creation of this retention strategy, the group concluded that there were 4 major questions a family would consider before making a move here. As you can see from questions 1 and 3, this presentation has touched on 2 of those points. Now, if we continue on the current course, to use the vernacular of the kids these days, we'll be heading for a big fat fail on 2 of those 4 questions, making Qualicum Beach a very undesirable place to live. So, let's choose not to fail. There are many viable options for the school that are certainly better for our students and community than just boarding it up. 90 days is not enough time to explore them though. With so much at stake, don't you think our community and our children deserve more time? Or would you like to be responsible for the destruction of this community?
Vibrant community. It's not just a big old folks home kind of thing. And I
But
think
it
there's
will
been
become one if they do close the school, so it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If
Yeah.
they close the school down, families will not move into the town.